An estimated 1,038,000 abortions were provided by clinicians in states without total bans in 2024. As a woman, I may be affected by decisions made towards reproductive health and abortions. Abortion rights have been a controversial topic in American politics for years, and it is important to be educated on the topic to make informed opinions. Today, I will be discussing the topic of abortion rights in the United States, and I will be explaining what abortions are and how it became the topic of debate. I will be discussing both sides of the argument, the first side being in favor of abortion, also known as the pro-choice stance, as well as the side opposing abortion, also known as the pro-life stance. How did abortion rights become the topic of debate it is today? In an article from the National Library of Medicine, Kumwang defines abortion as a medical procedure used to terminate pregnancy in a major aspect of reproductive health care. It is important to understand how this debate started and how it has progressed into the topic and complicated disagreement it is today. In an article from Hopkins Bloomberg Public Health magazine, Winnie explains that the U.S.'s attitude towards abortion hadn't changed until the mid-19th century. For the most part, it had been legal until what is known as quickening, which is when the fetal motion could be felt by the mother because the fetus wasn't considered its own, but rather an extension of the mother. The AMA shifted opinions in 1857, as explained by Winnie. This attitude had shifted as the AMA pushed for bans on abortion, arguing that life begins at conception rather than quickening, and this campaign set the precedent for the future as it led to at least 40 anti-abortion laws from 1860 to 1880. It is also important to know about the Supreme Court case Roe v. Wade. In an article from Reproductive Rights, it explains that with this case, the court recognized the right to liberty as it is in the Constitution, which in this case, it includes the right to decide whether to continue a pregnancy. This case allowed for abortion access for many, as mentioned earlier, with the anti-abortion law set, which removed access for abortion to many. This brings us to the controversy today. In an article from Reproductive Rights, it explains that in June 2022, the decision for Roe v. Wade was overturned, claiming that there is no constitutional right to abortion. Now I will be explaining the pro-choice side of the debate, which advocates for abortion rights. One of the main arguments as presented in an article from Amnesty is that everyone has the right to bodily autonomy, which is why anyone who gets pregnant should have the right to choose what to do. This article advocates for women's rights to choose, using the reasoning that it is a basic human right to bodily autonomy. Another reason presented in this article from Amnesty is the consequences of unsafe abortions. Studies found roughly 25 million unsafe abortions take place every year, and there are many consequences, including maternal deaths and disabilities. Amnesty presents this argument in order to protect women's health, with the reason being that it allows for safe abortion and protects women's health by restricting abortion access. And by restricting abortion access, it doesn't prevent abortions, but rather prevents safe abortions. In an article from EBSCO, Barnes presents the idea that being pro-choice advocates for women's lives, health, and rights. Barnes also presents the argument that restricting abortion leads to unwanted children. She also makes the argument that there is a lack of morals if those in support of pro-life focus on a child being born and not the education and well-being of those children. The argument Barnes is making is aimed to prevent children from growing up in poor home environments or in foster care simply because a mother is being prevented from having an abortion. In summary, the pro-choice argument is centered on protecting women's rights. Next, I will be explaining the pro-life side of the debate, which advocates for anti-abortion laws. One key point of the pro-life argument is explained in an article from Hastings Center. Steinbach explained that many conservative groups consider the fetus a human being with full moral rights at conception. Steinbach further explains that this is backed by the embryo receiving its own genetic code distinct from the mother and father, therefore it is considered the beginning of life. In this argument, Steinbach explains that it aims to protect or advocate against abortion using the logic that they are humans and they have rights that should be advocated for as they are unable to advocate for themselves. Another point that is made by Steinbach also explains that the argument given by Don Marquis in 1989 that abortion is wrong because killing anyone is wrong and it deprives the victim of a future. Marquis argues on a basis of morals and if it is wrong to kill someone, then therefore it should be wrong to have an abortion. In an article from Georgetown Law, Patel explains that the one well-known advocator's argument against abortion was the general decline in society's morals, and this has led to an increase in abortions. The argument Patel brings up argues against abortion with the reasoning that it is morally wrong, similar to the argument Marquise made that it is morally wrong to kill someone. In summary, the pro-life argument is against abortion, and it is centered on the concept of life, and it comes down to the moral dilemma on whether or not it kills someone. In conclusion, I hope I was able to inform you on the current debate on abortion rights and the pro-choice side that is in favor of abortion access and the pro-life side that is against abortion access. I hope you have gained a new understanding of both sides and why it is such a heavy issue in the United States. Thank you for listening.